The void between stars had never seemed so vast to Captain Mara Lynn as she stood on the bridge of the patrol cruiser, vigilant, staring into the endless black. The view screen displayed a holographic map of their position, the edge of human space, just beyond the Andromeda exclusion zone. Their steel and carbon vessel hung in space like a splinter against infinity. "Captain, we're receiving an unusual signal," Lieutenant Adil reported from his communication station. His dark brows furrowed as he adjusted his headset. "It's encrypted with a pattern I've never seen before. Definitely not human." Mara crossed the bridge her steps, sure, despite the artificial gravity's slight fluctuation. The Vigilant was due for maintenance, but patrol schedules had been tight along the frontier. "Can you isolate it?" she asked, leaning over his shoulder to examine the waveform patterns dancing across his screen. "I'm trying, but the encryption is... It's like nothing in our databases." Adil's fingers flew across the console. "Whatever it is, it's not meant for us to intercept." Chief Engineer Vasquez approached from the secondary systems panel, her coverall stained with hydraulic fluid. "Could be a trap," she suggested. "Void scavengers have been getting creative with their lures lately." Mara studied the signal's pattern. There was something about its rhythm, an urgency, a desperation that transcended language barriers. It reminded her of the distress calls she'd answered as a search and rescue pilot before the incident that had haunted her dreams for the past decade. "No," she decided. "This isn't a trap, it's a call for help." Captain Adil protested. "We have strict non-contact protocols for unidentified signals. We should report this up channel and wait for instructions." The memory flashed through Mara's mind, the colony on Proxima Centauri 4, the storm that had damaged her shuttle, the faces of the colonists she couldn't reach in time. She'd followed protocol, then waited for backup instead of risking the descent. By the time reinforcements arrived, the flooding had claimed 17 lives. "Not again, not on her watch." "Triangulate the source and plot a course," she ordered. "Maximum burn." Captain Adil persisted. "Earth Command will what Lieutenant court-martial me for investigating a potential emergency, for doing my job." Mara's voice was steel, but her eyes held a flicker of something more personal. "If it's nothing, we can report it as a routine patrol deviation. If someone needs help, every minute counts." Vasquez nodded her approval. "I'll prep the engines for sustained high output. We'll need to run diagnostics during transit to ensure we don't blow a coolant seal." "Do it," Mara said, returning to the captain's chair. As the Vigilant changed course, accelerating toward the mysterious signal, she couldn't shake the feeling that this decision would change everything. 3 days at maximum burn through what humans called Deathworld, jump a region of space notorious for its radiation bursts and gravitational anomalies, left the crew on edge. The Vigilant's corridors felt more claustrophobic than usual, tensions simmering beneath the surface of professional interactions. In her quarters, Mara reviewed the fragmented message they'd managed to partially decode. Holographic snippets played in the air before her crystalline structures, blue-tinged cities, and what appeared to be data transfer stations. The images were interrupted by shadowy vessels that Mara recognized as void scavenger ships, pirates, who preyed on isolated outposts and vessels. A knock at her door pulled her from her analysis. "Enter," she called. Lieutenant Adil stepped inside, his posture rigid. "Captain, I've completed the latest signal analysis. It's definitely a distress call, but it appears to be encrypted specifically for receipt by vessels from a system called Ondor XC." "Ondor, yes," Mara queried. "That's not in our star charts." "No, it wouldn't be. It's beyond our explored space." Adil handed her a data tablet. "From what we've decoded, the message was sent by someone called Ambassador Threll of the Ondor Council. Their research vessel is under attack by void scavengers, and their transmissions are being jammed." Mara scrolled through the data. So this signal was never meant for human ears. It was a call to their own people. Yes, which means we're heading directly into first contact with not one, but 2 non-human groups, one of which is hostile. Adil's voice tightened. Captain, we should really consult with Earth Command before proceeding. Mara set down the tablet. How long would it take for a message to reach command and for a response to get back to us? At this distance, at least 11 days. And how long before we reach the source of the distress call? Approximately 18 hours at our current speed. Mara stood her decision already made. By then it could be too late. We continue as planned, Lieutenant. With all due respect, Captain, this goes beyond protocol. This is potential interspecies diplomacy with unknown entities. We're a patrol cruiser, not a diplomatic vessel. We're also humans, Lieutenant, Mara countered. And out here we represent humanity. Would you rather our first impression be that we ignored a cry for help because it wasn't addressed to us? Adil hesitated, then straightened his shoulders. No, Captain, but I want my objection noted in the log. Duly noted, Lieutenant. Now let's prepare for what we might find out there. After Adil left, Mara turned off the lights in her quarters and closed her eyes. The darkness behind her eyelids didn't bring peace. It never did. Instead, it brought the memories the storm on Proxima Centauri 4, the terrified transmissions from the colonists, the crushing weight of command as she made the decision to wait rather than risk her craft and crew. Not this time, she whispered to the ghosts that haunted her. This time, we'll be there in time. As the Vigilant approached the coordinates of the distress signal, the ship's sensors detected energy discharges consistent with weapons fire. Through the view screen, they could see 3 Corvette-class vessels surrounding a larger ship unlike anything in human designs. Where human vessels were all sharp angles and functional protrusions, this ship was elegant, its hull seemingly made of interlocking crystalline panels that shimmered with an inner light. The Celestine, Mara murmured, recalling the name from the distress call. Captain, the scavenger ships are attempting to breach the crystal vessel's hull, reported the tactical officer. They appear to be using some kind of drilling apparatus. Shields up, charge weapons, Mara ordered. Comms open a channel to all vessels. A moment later, she spoke. Attention vessels. This is Captain Mara Lynn of the Earth Patrol Cruiser, Vigilant. Cease your attack on the Celestine immediately. There was a pause, then a crackling response. This is none of your concern, Earth vessel, came a harsh voice. This is salvage operation in free space. Leave now, or you'll share their fate. Captain Adil warned. They're repositioning. 2 corvettes are breaking off to engage us. Mara's mind raced through tactical options. The Vigilant was built for patrol and interdiction, not pitched battles against multiple adversaries. But if she retreated now, the Celestine would be lost. Tactical target the lead corvette's propulsion systems. Fire when ready. She turned to Adil. Try to establish contact with the Celestine. Let them know we're here to help. The Vigilant. Pulse cannons fired blue energy, streaking across space to strike the first corvette. The scavenger ship lurched, its engines flickering as it spun off course. Direct hit, tactical confirmed. Their propulsion is damaged, but their weapons are still online. The other corvettes opened fire, energy bolts hammering against the Vigilant's shields. The bridge trembled with each impact. Shields at 87%, reported Vasquez from her engineering station. We can take a few more hits, but not sustained fire from all 3. Mara gripped the arms of her chair. Helm, plot a course through that asteroid field at coordinates 227 Mark 39. Tactical continuous fire on the corvette, blocking our path to the Celestine. Through the asteroid field. The helm officer looked back at her in disbelief. Captain, that's a Deathworlder gambit, Mara finished for him. They won't expect it, and they may not be able to follow. The Vigilant surged forward, pulse cannons blazing as it headed straight for the dense field of tumbling rocks. In the chaos of the battle, Mara noticed the crystalline ship was attempting to maneuver away from the 3rd corvette, which still had its drilling apparatus attached to the hull. Adil, any contact with the Celestine? Partial, Captain. Their communications are damaged, but I'm getting fragments of response. They seem surprised we came to their aid. The Vigilant dove into the asteroid field, its point defense systems automatically firing to clear the smaller rocks from their path. The two corvettes followed, but their larger, less maneuverable frames made the pursuit difficult. One clipped a spinning asteroid and spun out of control, its shields flaring as it collided with several more rocks. "One down," Mara noted grimly. "Helm, bring us around behind the remaining corvette. Tactical, prepare to disable their weapons." As they executed the maneuver, the bridge lights dimmed momentarily, the strain of combat taxing their systems. Captain, Vasquez called out, "The third corvette has broken free from the Celestine and is coming around for another attack run. Their hull is breached in Section Gamma 7. Mara made a swift decision. "Divert power from non-essential systems to shields and weapons. Helm, bring us between the Celestine and that corvette. Tactical, target their weapons platforms, surgical strikes only." The Vigilant took position, shielding the damaged alien vessel, as the remaining corvettes regrouped for another assault. The bridge view screen showed the crystal ship clearly now, its elegant design marred by a ragged hole where the drilling apparatus had breached its hull. "Captain," Adil reported, "I'm receiving a clear transmission from the Celestine. They're thanking us and requesting direct assistance with their hull breach." Mara stood. "Tell them we're sending an EVA team immediately. Vasquez, you're with me. Lieutenant Adil, you have the bridge. Keep those corvettes off our backs while we make repairs." "Captain," Adil protested, "protocol states the commanding officer should not leave the ship during combat operations." "I know," Mara cut him off. "But I'm the most experienced EVA specialist aboard, and this isn't a standard repair. We have no idea what their technology requires." She headed for the exit. "Besides, Lieutenant, we left protocol behind 3 days ago when we changed course to investigate an alien distress call. Might as well see it through personally." In the EVA preparation bay, Mara and a team of 3 engineers donned their armored exosuits, heavy-duty space gear, designed to withstand micrometeorite impacts and limited weapons fire. The suits were bulky, but offered unparalleled protection for extravehicular work in contested zones. Telemetry from the Celestine indicates their atmosphere is breathable for humans. Vasquez reported as they checked each other's seals. "Slightly higher oxygen content than Earth standard, but nothing our physiology can't handle." "Good to know, but keep helmets sealed until we're sure," Mara instructed. "And remember, this is first contact. We represent all of humanity in this moment." The airlock cycled, and the 4 figures pushed off into the void, microthrusters guiding them toward the damaged section of the Celestine. As they approached, Mara could see that the crystalline hull was not simply decorative. It appeared to be the ship's actual structure, a marvel of engineering unlike anything humans had achieved. The breach was a jagged hole, approximately 3 meters across the crystal edges, fractured and glowing faintly, with what Mara guessed might be the ship's equivalent of an emergency containment field. Through the hole, she could see interior corridors, lined with the same crystalline material, softly illuminated from within. And there, just inside the breach, were the ship's occupants. The Luminari were taller than humans, with slender frames that seemed almost too delicate for spaceflight. Their skin had a faint luminescence, ranging from pale blue to deeper violet, and what might have been hair appeared more like gently waving tendrils of light. They wore close-fitting garments that seemed to flow seamlessly with their bodies. One stepped forward as Mara's team neared the breach. Even through the distortion of the emergency field, Mara could sense the being's hesitation and fascination. "Permission to come aboard and assist with repairs," Mara transmitted, hoping their communication systems could translate. There was a pause, then a melodic voice responded in accented but clear English. "Permission granted, Earth Vessel Rescue Team. We are grateful for your intervention." Mara and her team carefully passed through the containment field, the strange energy washing over their suits with a tingling sensation. Once inside, the artificial gravity of the Celestine took hold, and they found themselves standing before a group of 5 Luminari. "I am Ambassador Threll of the Yonder Council," said the one who had spoken before. She, Mara, assumed the pronoun based on the voice's timbre, regarded the humans with large, iridescent eyes. "You received our distress call. How is this possible? It was encrypted for Onder receivers only." "Captain Mara Lin of the Earth Patrol Cruiser, Vigilant." Mara responded, releasing her helmet seal as scans confirmed the atmosphere was safe. She took a cautious breath. The air tasted sweet, almost like honeysuckle. "We intercepted your signal by chance. The encryption was foreign to us, but the pattern, it felt like a call for help." Another luminary stepped forward, this one, with deeper blue skin, and what appeared to be scientific instruments attached to a sash across its chest. "Impossible, this one," said voice trembling slightly. The cadence patterns were specifically designed to be recognizable only to Ondor neural structures. Unless, the scientist turned to Threll, unless humans possess an intuitive pattern recognition that transcends our understanding. "I assure you it was nothing so dramatic," Mara said. "We've been intercepting Void scavenger communications for years. We know what predatory behavior looks like in signal form." She gestured to the breach. "Now, can we help you repair this damage before they regroup for another attack?" Threll seemed to recover from her surprise. "Yes, of course. Scientist Caliro will guide your team. Our crystal tech may be unfamiliar to you." Caliro approached cautiously, eyes wide as they took in the bulk of the human's armor. "Your exosuits, they are so heavy, yet you move with such control." "Standard issue for human space operations." Vasquez explained, already examining the breach. "We come from a high-gravity world with harsh conditions. It shapes our technology." "And your biology," Caliro murmured. "The legends of Deathworlders. I never thought." "Deathworlders?" Mara questioned. Threll made a gesture that might have been embarrassment. "A term sometimes used for species that evolved on particularly challenging planets. It's not meant as an insult, more a classification based on environmental origin." "No offense taken," Mara assured her, though she noted the term for later consideration. "Now about these repairs." For the next hour, the human team worked alongside the Luminari to patch the breach. The crystal technology was indeed unlike anything they'd encountered, but the engineering principles were universal enough that they could assist effectively. Mara was impressed by the Luminari's resilience, despite their seemingly fragile appearance, and they, in turn, seemed fascinated by the human's strength and adaptability. As they worked, Threll explained their situation. The Celestine had been on a standard research mission studying stellar phenomena on the frontier of Onder space when the Void scavengers attacked. The pirates were after the ship's advanced data crystals, which contained valuable research on stable wormhole generation technology that could revolutionize interstellar travel or be weaponized in the wrong hands. "Our distress call should have reached the Onder Guardian Armada," Threll explained, as they finished sealing the breach with a combination of human polymer patches and Luminari crystal growth techniques. But the scavenger's jamming fields must have prevented the signal from reaching its intended recipients. "Yet, somehow your ship received it," Caliro added, watching Vasquez's hands with undisguised fascination as the engineer delicately manipulated crystal filaments. "Despite having no prior contact with our species." "Sometimes being in the right place at the wrong time works out," Mara replied. She tapped her communicator. "Vigilant status report." "We've driven off the corvettes," Captain Adil's voice came through. "They've retreated to the far side of the asteroid field, but sensors indicate they're regrouping and calling for reinforcements." Mara exchanged a look with Threll. "We need to get your ship moving. Can your engines sustain enough power to reach Onder space?" Threll conferred briefly with another Luminari before responding. "Our primary drive is damaged. We can maintain life support and minimal propulsion, but not enough to outrun pursuers." "Then we'll escort you," Mara decided. "The Vigilant can position itself between the Celestine and any attackers. We'll get you home." Captain Adil's voice warned, "Earth Command has explicit protocols against venturing into unexplored territories, especially those belonging to unknown species." Mara could feel Threll and Caliro watching her. This was a pivotal moment, not just for her career, but potentially for humanity's first formal relations with an advanced alien civilization. "We can't leave them stranded, Lieutenant," she responded. "And we can't bring them into human space without authorization. The only logical option is to escort them home, then diplomatically request permission to return to our patrol route." There was a pregnant pause before Adil responded. "Understood, Captain. Plotting escort course based on the Celestine's navigational data." As the repair team prepared to return to the Vigilant, Threll extended a hand in what was clearly an imitation of a human gesture. "Captain Lin, your decision to aid us will not be forgotten. The Ondor Council would be honored to host you properly once we reach our home." Mara took the offered hand carefully, noting how the Luminari's skin felt warm and with a subtle vibration as though energy flowed just beneath the surface. "The honor is ours, Ambassador. Now let's get your people home safely." Back aboard the Vigilant, Mara called a briefing with her senior officers. The situation had evolved far beyond a simple rescue mission, and she needed her crew unified behind the decisions to come. To be clear, she began facing the assembled officers in the conference room. "We are now escorting an alien vessel into territory completely unknown to Earth or the Colonial Alliance. We've engaged hostile forces to protect this vessel, and we may need to do so again." She looked at each face in turn. "I want any concerns voiced now before we proceed further." Lieutenant Adil spoke first. "Captain, while I maintain that we should have consulted with Earth Command before initiating first contact, I acknowledge that the circumstances were exigent. However, I must emphasize that escorting the Celestine deeper into unknown space represents a significant escalation of our involvement." "Noted," Lieutenant Mara acknowledged. "And your alternative suggestion would be?" "Protocol would dictate we hold position at the edge of known space and request a diplomatic vessel be dispatched to handle further interaction." Vasquez snorted. "And leave them sitting ducks for when those scavengers come back with reinforcements. That's not protocol. That's abandonment." "The chief engineer has a point," Mara said. "The Void Scavengers were willing to risk attacking the Celestine once. Now that they know the value of what's aboard, they'll be even more determined." She turned to her tactical officer. "What's your assessment of our combat readiness if we encounter additional hostiles?" The Vigilant sustained minimal damage during the engagement. Shields are at 92%, weapon systems fully operational. If we maintain our current alert status, we can respond effectively to threats. The officer hesitated. "But, Captain, if the scavengers return with capital ships rather than corvettes, the equation changes." Mara nodded grimly. "All the more reason to get the Celestine home as quickly as possible. Onderspace will presumably have its own defense forces." "About that," Vasquez interjected. "I've been reviewing the repair data from the Celestine. Their technology it's beyond anything we've developed, Captain. Their crystal tech appears to harness energy in ways our physicists have only theorized about. If this is representative of their civilization's capabilities, the Ondor may be significantly more advanced than humanity." A thoughtful silence fell over the room. The implications were profound. Humanity had long wondered about its place in the cosmos, whether they were alone or merely one civilization among many. Now they had their answer, and it came with the humbling realization that they might not be the technological leaders they'd imagined. "All the more reason to make a good impression," Mara finally said. "We represent humanity in this encounter. Let's ensure we represent the best of what we are." She stood. "Return to your stations. We'll maintain escort formation with the Celestine and proceed toward Ondor space at their maximum sustainable speed." As the officers filed out, Adil lingered. "Captain, a moment." Mara nodded, and when they were alone, Adil spoke more freely. "This isn't just about protocols, Captain. This is about walking into the unknown with no backup, no intelligence, and no authorization. If something goes wrong, then it's on me," Lieutenant Mara finished for him. "I made the call to investigate the distress signal. I made the call to engage the scavengers, and I'm making the call to escort the Celestine home. My record, my responsibility." Adil studied her face. "This is about Proxima Centauri IV, isn't it? You're still carrying that weight." Mara felt a flash of irritation, then forced herself to consider his words. Was she overcompensating for past failures, rushing to rescue where once she had hesitated? Perhaps, she admitted. But that doesn't make the decision wrong. Sometimes our personal demons drive us to be better than we were. She met his gaze directly. "I need to know if you're with me, Adil. Not just following orders, but truly supporting this mission." The lieutenant was silent for a long moment. "I believe in doing things by the book because the book is written in the blood of those who made mistakes before us," he finally said. "But sometimes the situation isn't in the book." He straightened his shoulders. "I'm with you, Captain, for whatever comes next." "Thank you, Lieutenant," Mara said, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. "Now, let's get our guests home." The journey toward Onder space was tense, but uneventful for the first 12 hours. The Vigilant maintained position alongside the damaged Celestine sensors, constantly scanning for any sign of the Void Scavenger's return. During this time, communication between the two vessels increased, with the Luminary sharing basic information about their culture and history. Mara learned that the Onder civilization had achieved spaceflight nearly 2 centuries before humans, and had been part of a loose coalition of spacefaring species known as the Galactic Consortium. The term Deathworlder was indeed a classification, rather than a pejorative. It referred to species that evolved on planets with high gravity, extreme temperature variations, and robust competition among life forms. Such origins tend to produce physically resilient species with heightened fight-or-flight responses, Calero explained during a video conference. The term sometimes carries cautionary connotations only because Deathworld species can unintentionally cause harm to those from more gentle environments. Like handling a crystal vessel with too much force, Mara suggested understanding dawning. Precisely, Threll confirmed, with what Mara was beginning to recognize as the luminary equivalent of a smile, a subtle brightening of the skin around the eyes. "Your crew's careful work on our hull repairs was impressive, precisely because you balanced strength with delicacy." Mara was about to respond when alarms blared across the Vigilance bridge. "Captain, multiple vessels approaching at high speed," the tactical officer reported. "Configuration matches Void Scavenger designs, but these are Destroyer Class 7 of them." 7. Mara felt a cold knot form in her stomach. The Vigilant could handle corvettes, but Destroyer-class vessels were another matter entirely. Time to intercept. 18 minutes at their current speed. Mara opened a channel to the Celestine. "Ambassador, we have a situation. Scavenger reinforcements are inbound significantly more firepower than we faced before. What's your ship's status?" Threll's expression was grave. "Our shields are at 40% capacity. Propulsion remains limited. We've managed to restore partial jamming countermeasures, but not weapon systems." "How far are we from Onder space?" "At our current speed, approximately 6 hours to the outer patrol routes." "Too long. By then the confrontation would be long over one way or another." "We need options," Mara told her bridge crew. "Tactical analysis of the approaching vessels. 7 destroyer-class ships heavily armed, but with typical scavenger modifications, patchwork shields, reinforced rams for boarding actions, multiple mounting points for salvage equipment. Their advantage is numbers, not quality." Mara considered their position. The nearby gas giant with its complex ring system might offer some tactical possibilities, but with 7 pursuers, conventional maneuvers would only delay the inevitable. "Vasquez, can we push the engines beyond standard protocols?" she asked. "Give us enough speed to reach Onder patrol routes before they catch us." The chief engineer shook her head. "Not without risking catastrophic coolant failure, Captain. We're already running hot from the combat and sustained high output." Mara turned to the stellar cartography display studying the gas giant and its rings. An idea began to form, risky, borderline reckless, but with a chance of success. Lieutenant Adil, open a channel to the Celestine. I need to speak with both Ambassador Threll and Scientist Caliro immediately. When the luminary appeared on screen, Mara outlined her plan. The gas giant's rings contain dense concentrations of ice and silicate particles, creating a natural labyrinth. If we take the Celestine into the rings, we can use the debris fields to our advantage. The scavengers will be forced to slow down and navigate carefully, neutralizing their numerical advantage. Captain Lin, Caliro, protested. The gravitational stresses within the ring system would place enormous strain on our damaged hull. The crystal lattice might not withstand such forces. I understand the risk, Mara acknowledged. But we need to consider the alternative. These aren't the same 3 corvettes we faced before. These are destroyer-class vessels, with enough combined firepower to overwhelm both our ships in open space. Threll seemed to be considering the options carefully. You propose to use the ring system as a tactical environment to transform a pursuit into an ambush. Exactly, Mara confirmed. Humans evolved as persistence hunters, Ambassador. We're at our best when we turn the hunted into the hunters. There was a brief silence as the luminary conferred among themselves. Then Threll spoke. We will follow your lead, Captain Lin. But I must attempt something as well, a cultural broadcast to rally my crew. It will break our communication silence and risk detection by the scavengers, but it may be necessary for us to maintain cohesion during this Deathworlder gambit. Mara smiled at the borrowed terminology. Understood, Ambassador. Prepare your people. We enter the rings in 12 minutes. As the 2 ships altered course toward the gas giant, Mara addressed her own crew. All hands, this is the captain. We are about to execute a high-risk maneuver through dense planetary rings. This is not standard procedure. This is survival. Secure all stations for extreme gravitational stress. Point defense systems to automatic tracking. Brace for potential impacts. The massive gas giant loomed larger on the view screen, its banded atmosphere swirling with storms, large enough to swallow Earth whole. More impressive were the rings, not the thin, elegant bands visible from a distance, but a chaotic 3-dimensional maze of ice chunks, dust, and rock, ranging from microscopic particles to boulder-sized masses. Scavenger vessels continuing pursuit. Captain Tactical reported. They're closing the gap, 14 minutes to intercept. We'll be in the rings in 8, Mara noted. Helm, prepare to execute the programmed evasion pattern once we cross the ring boundary. Tactical ready aft torpedo launchers. We'll need to discourage close pursuit. As they approached the outer edge of the rings, the vigilant as sensors detected a powerful transmission from the Celestine Threll's cultural broadcast. To Mara's surprise, it wasn't just a communication signal, but a harmonized resonance that seemed to make the very hull of the Vigilant vibrate in sympathy. Captain Adil reported with awe in his voice, "The Luminari broadcast, it's creating a harmonic pattern that's strengthening the Celestine's crystal structure. They're literally singing their ship together." On the screen, the Celestine began to glow more brightly, the fractured areas of its hull emitting a stronger luminescence, as though the ship itself were coming alive. As both vessels plunged into the ring system, the luminary ship moved with newfound grace despite its damage. The next hour was a masterclass in evasive piloting. The Vigilant and Celestine wove through the debris field, using larger ice formations as cover and dust clouds as visual obscurement. The pursuing destroyers, built for straight-line power rather than agility, found themselves at a severe disadvantage in the 3-dimensional labyrinth. 2 of the destroyers have collided with ring material. Tactical reported with satisfaction. Their shields are failing. A 3rd has broken off pursuit, possibly due to navigation system damage. That leaves 4, Mara noted, gripping her chair, as the Vigilant shuddered through another tight turn around a massive ice boulder. Still not great odds, but better than 7. Captain Adil called out, "I'm detecting communication between the remaining destroyers. They're coordinating to try to flank us. 2, continuing direct pursuit. 2 attempting to circle around and cut off our exit vector." Mara studied the tactical display. The scavengers were adapting, but their very coordination gave her an idea. Adil, can you isolate their navigation telemetry signals? The data they're sharing to coordinate their positions. The lieutenant's eyes widened as he caught her meaning. Possibly, Captain. Their encryption is crude by our standards. If we can access it, then we can feed false data into their navigation systems, Mara finished. Make them see obstacles where there are none, clear paths where danger lurks. It would require precise signal manipulation, Adil cautioned. And we'd need to get closer to their lead vessel to establish the initial data intrusion. Mara nodded decisively. Plot an intercept course with the lead destroyer. Make it look like we're attempting to break past them toward open space. She opened a channel to the Celestine. Ambassador Threll, we're executing a new maneuver. The Vigilant will appear to break formation with you, drawing the destroyer's attention. Can your vessel hold position within the densest part of the ring for approximately 20 minutes? Our harmonic resonance is stabilizing the hull, Threll confirmed. We can maintain position. What do you intend, Captain? A bit of Deathworlder deception, Mara replied with a grim smile. Stand by. The Vigilant peeled away from the Celestine, accelerating through a relatively clear channel in the rings. As anticipated, the scavenger vessels adjusted course to pursue what they perceived as a fleeing target. They're taking the bait, Tactical confirmed. All 4 destroyers are now focusing on us. Adil. Signal intrusion program ready, Captain. But we'll need to get within 2,000 kilometers of the lead vessel for optimal transmission. Helm, execute approach pattern Delta 7. Make it look like we're attempting to use those ice formations as cover for a sprint to open space. The Vigilant danced through the debris field, seemingly desperate to escape, but in reality, carefully positioning itself for Adil's signal intrusion. As the distance to the lead destroyer narrowed, tension on the bridge peaked. In range, Adil announced. Initiating intrusion sequence, now. For several breathless seconds, nothing seemed to happen. Then abruptly, 2 of the pursuing destroyers veered sharply away from each other, their captains reacting to phantom obstacles that existed only in their compromised navigation systems. It's working, Adil reported with barely concealed excitement. Their formation is breaking down. The false telemetry is cascading through their network. On the tactical display, Mara watched as the scavenger vessels began to move erratically, each responding to different false data. One destroyer suddenly accelerated, then cut power completely, its captain likely seeing contradictory sensor readings and choosing to halt rather than risk collision. Now for Phase 2, Mara said. Tactical target their communication arrays, precision strikes only. I want them isolated, not destroyed. The Vigilant's pulse cannons fired blue energy lancing out to strike the vulnerable communication dishes mounted on each destroyer. With surgical precision, the human vessel disabled the scavenger's ability to coordinate without causing catastrophic damage to life support or propulsion. All targets' communication arrays neutralized, Tactical confirmed. They're operating blind now, Captain. Helm, return us to the Celestine's position. Adil, open a general broadcast channel. Once they had rendezvoused with the Luminary vessel and begun moving toward the edge of the ring system, Mara addressed the scattered and confused scavenger fleet. Attention, Void scavenger vessels. This is Captain Mara Lin of the Earth Patrol Cruiser, Vigilant. Your ships are disabled, your formation broken. We could have destroyed you but chose not to. The Celestine is under our protection and will be escorted safely to underspace. Any further pursuit will result in more permanent measures. Acknowledge. One by one, the destroyer captains signaled their surrender. The battle was over. As the Vigilant and Celestine emerged from the ring system, the immediate danger past Mara felt the accumulated tension of the past days begin to release. They still had a journey ahead to reach Ondor space, but the most pressing threat had been neutralized. In the aftermath, Mara arranged for the scavenger crews to be taken into custody, ensuring humane treatment for the pirates, despite their attempted theft and violence. It was, she believed, important to demonstrate that humanity's strength was tempered by compassion, a message for both the defeated scavengers and their new luminary allies. The void scavengers will be processed according to consortium protocols once we reach Andurigangs, Threll assured her during a video conference. Your decision to disable rather than destroy them speaks well of your species, Captain Lin. We try to avoid unnecessary loss of life, Mara responded simply. A remarkable philosophy for a Deathworld species. Caliro commented, his scientific curiosity evident. Most life forms that evolve in high-competition environments develop much stronger elimination instincts. Perhaps that's the difference between surviving and truly living, Mara suggested. We learned that cooperation often yields better results than competition, even on our Deathworld. As the two ships continued their journey toward Underspace, Mara received an incoming transmission from Earth Command. 12 days had passed since they changed course to investigate the distress signal, enough time for their absence from scheduled patrol routes to be noticed, and for Command to dispatch inquiries. Patch it through to my ready room, Mara instructed Adil. Alone in her private office, she accepted the transmission, bracing herself for the inevitable reprimand. Admiral Zhao's stern face appeared on her screen. Captain Lin, would you care to explain why the Vigilant is significantly off course and approaching completely uncharted space? Your last scheduled check-in was 11 days ago. Mara maintained her composure. Admiral, we intercepted a distress call from a non-human vessel under attack by void scavengers. I made the decision to respond and render assistance, which led to first contact with a species called the Luminari. We are currently escorting their damaged research vessel to their home system. Zhao's expression darkened. You initiated first contact without authorization. Captain, the protocols for such scenarios are explicitly clear. With respect, Admiral, Mara interrupted. The situation was time-critical. The Luminari vessel was being breached by hostiles, and lives were at stake. I stand by my decision to interpret the non-contact protocols as subordinate to our duty to render assistance to vessels in distress. You've potentially exposed Earth to an unknown alien civilization without proper diplomatic preparation, Zhao continued, but Mara noted his tone had shifted slightly, from outrage to assessment. What's your evaluation of these Luminari? Are they technologically superior? Hostile? What are their capabilities? The Luminari possess technology significantly beyond our own, particularly in energy manipulation and crystalline engineering, Mara reported honestly. However, they've shown no hostility, quite the contrary. They're part of a wider coalition of spacefaring species and have expressed interest in formal diplomatic relations with humanity. Zhao was silent for a long moment, processing this information. And these void scavengers? Your tactical logs indicate you engaged multiple hostile vessels. Standard pirate operation initially. 3 corvettes attempting to breach the Luminary vessel for technology theft. We drove them off, but they returned with destroyer-class reinforcements. Mara allowed herself a small smile. We neutralized the threat without destroying any of their vessels. The scavenger crews are in custody and will be processed according to the protocols of this galactic consortium, the Luminari mentioned. Another thoughtful silence from the Admiral. So you're telling me that not only did you initiate unauthorized first contact, but you've also potentially aligned humanity with an interstellar political entity we know nothing about. Put that way, it did sound presumptuous. Mara squared her shoulders. I acted to save lives, Admiral. The diplomatic implications were secondary considerations in an emergency situation. That said, this encounter presents an unprecedented opportunity for humanity to establish peaceful relations with a more advanced civilization. Zhao's expression remained stern, but Mara thought she detected a glimmer of something like reluctant approval in his eyes. Continue your escort mission, Captain. Get the Luminari vessel home safely. Earth Command will dispatch a proper diplomatic vessel to your coordinates. Until they arrive, you are our de facto representative. Do not, I repeat, do not make any formal agreements or commitments on behalf of Earth or the Colonial Alliance. Understood, Admiral. And Captain Zhao added, before disconnecting, while your methods were unorthodox, your results appear promising. Good work. The screen went dark, leaving Mara momentarily stunned. Admiral Zhao was notorious for his strict adherence to protocol and chain of command. That final comment coming from him was tantamount to effusive praise. When the Vigilant and Celestine finally reached the outer patrol routes of Onder space 3 days later, they were met by an impressive sight, a formation of crystalline vessels, similar to the Celestine, but larger and clearly designed for defense rather than research. These ships gleamed with a more intense inner light, their hulls patterned with what Mara now recognized as weapon emplacements. The Onder Guardian Armada. Threll explained via video link, her voice filled with relief. They received my broadcast from the ring system and dispatched a welcoming fleet. The lead Onder vessel established communication with both ships. A luminary figure appeared on the Vigilance view screen, more ornately dressed than Threll or Kaliro, with deeper blue skin that pulsed with light as they spoke. I am Admiral Prell of the Onder Guardian Armada. They introduced themselves. Ambassador Threll has informed us of your intervention, Captain Lin. The Onder Council extends its gratitude for your rescue of the Celestine and its crew. We were happy to help, Admiral Mara responded diplomatically. The Vigilant was simply fulfilling its duty to respond to vessels in distress. A duty that apparently transcends species boundaries for humans, Priel noted, with what seemed like approval. Most interesting. The Council requests your presence on Onder M, Captain. There is much to discuss regarding this unexpected first contact. Mara hesitated, recalling Admiral Zhao's instruction not to make formal commitments. We would be honored to accept your invitation, Admiral, though I must note that I am not an authorized diplomatic representative of Earth. Understood, Captain. This would be a preliminary cultural exchange only, with formal diplomatic protocols to follow once your government dispatches appropriate representatives. Prell's skin brightened. However, you and your crew have earned the right to be the first humans to visit an underworld. The Council is eager to properly thank the Deathworlders, who answered our distress call. The word Deathworlders no longer seemed like a classification to Mara. It had taken on a new meaning, almost one of respect. Then we accept with gratitude, Admiral Prell. As the Vigilant was escorted through Onder space toward the crystalline world of Onder Rivi, Mara gathered her senior officers for a final briefing. This is unprecedented territory for humanity, she told them. We'll be the first humans to visit an alien world by invitation rather than exploration. Our conduct will set the tone for all future relations between our species. Do we have any guidelines for the interaction? Captain Adil asked his earlier resistance to their mission, now replaced by professional focus on the task ahead. Standard diplomatic protocols adapted as necessary, Mara replied. Observe their customs limit physical contact, unless initiated by them, and remember what we've learned about their perception of humans as Deathworlders. We may need to be particularly mindful of our physical strength and movements. Vasquez looked excited, rather than concerned. Their technology, Captain, if what we've seen on the Celestine is representative, the potential for technological exchange could be revolutionary for human engineering. That may come later, Mara cautioned. For now, our priority is establishing goodwill and trust. Technology sharing would be part of formal diplomatic agreements, beyond our authority to negotiate. As they approached Onder, the planet's beauty became apparent through the Vigilance viewports. Unlike Earth's blue and green marble, Onder shimmered with crystalline structures, visible even from orbit, vast cities that caught and reflected the light of the system's star in prismatic displays. The Vigilant was guided to a docking position at an orbital station, a massive crystalline ring that pulsed with inner light, ships of various designs coming and going through geometric ports. Unity's dawn. Adil translated from the information provided by their escorts. Apparently, a diplomatic hub for the region. Appropriate, Mara noted. Prepare the landing party myself, Lieutenant Adil, Chief Engineer Vasquez, and 2 security officers. Standard diplomatic protocol uniforms, no visible weapons. The landing on Unity's Dawn was ceremonial, but not overly formal. A delegation of luminary led by Ambassador Threll greeted them in a vast chamber whose crystal walls shifted colors, subtly creating an atmosphere of serene welcome. Captain Lin. Threll greeted her, performing a human-style bow that Mara recognized as an adapted courtesy. The Ondor Council awaits your arrival, but first there is someone who wished to personally welcome you. From among the delegation stepped a luminary whose skin shimmered with such intensity that Mara had to resist the urge to shield her eyes. This being moved with careful grace, each gesture deliberate and flowing. Hierarch Lauren of the Ondor Council, Threll introduced, the highest representative of our people. Mara and her officers bowed respectfully. We're honored by your presence, Hierarch. The luminary leader's voice was melodious, yet carried an unmistakable gravity. The honor is ours, Captain Lin of Earth. For centuries, the term Deathworlder has been used within the consortium as a classification of caution species to be respected, but approached with care. Today, you have given us reason to reconsider this view. We simply responded to a call for help, Mara said, feeling somewhat uncomfortable with the reverence in the hierarch's tone. That is precisely why we must reconsider, Loren continued. A species from a high-gravity, high-competition world chose to risk its own safety for strangers. This speaks to qualities beyond physical adaptation. It speaks to a moral evolution that many thought impossible for Deathworld species. The hierarch gestured, and a crystalline table rose from the floor, bearing what appeared to be a model of the galaxy stars and systems interconnected by luminous lines. This is the Galactic Consortium. As it stands today, 23 species in formal alliance, another 41 in various stages of association. Loren indicated an area on the outer spiral arm. Here is where we believe your Earth resides, in what you call the Milky Way. The consortium has been aware of your civilization for some time, but had not yet determined the appropriate moment for contact. Mara exchanged a surprised glance with Adil. You knew about us? We observe many developing species, Threll explained. It is consortium policy not to interfere with civilizations until they achieve stable interstellar travel independently. Humans reached this milestone recently by our reckoning. And now, Hierarch Lauren continued, circumstances have accelerated the process. Your rescue of the Celestine has demonstrated qualities the consortium values highly: courage, compassion, and the willingness to aid others despite risk to oneself. The Council has voted unanimously to extend a formal invitation for Earth to join the Galactic Consortium as a full member once your proper diplomatic representatives arrive, of course. The statement left Mara momentarily speechless. This wasn't just first contact. It was an invitation to join an interstellar community, to leap forward into a wider universe than humanity had ever imagined. Hierarch, she finally managed. I'm deeply honored by this offer, though. As I've mentioned, I'm not authorized to accept formal diplomatic proposals on behalf of Earth. Of course, Lauren acknowledged. The formal invitation will await your diplomats. This is merely, how would humans express it, an advance notice of welcome. As the meeting progressed, Mara found herself increasingly impressed by the luminary approach to interspecies relations. Despite their technological advantages, they treated the humans as equals, showing genuine interest in Earth culture and history. Scientist Caliro was particularly eager to learn more about human adaptive capabilities, while Ambassador Threll focused on cultural exchange. The term Deathworlder, once a clinical classification, was already evolving in luminary usage. Mara noticed several of their hosts using it, with a tone of respect, almost admiration. What had been a warning label was becoming a badge of honor, symbolizing not just physical resilience but moral strength. After the formal reception, Threll took Mara on a tour of Unity's Dawn, showing her areas where other consortium species interacted and conducted diplomacy. The diversity was stunning, beings of all forms and physiologies, some recognizably humanoid, others utterly alien to human experience. Yet all coexisted in a system of mutual respect and cooperation. This could be humanity's future, Threll suggested, as they observed a group of various species engaged in what appeared to be a cultural exchange of music. Not isolation on the frontier, but partnership in a community spanning thousands of light years. "It's more than I ever imagined possible," Mara admitted. "When we intercepted your distress call, we were just doing our duty. I never thought it would lead to this." She gestured at the spectacular vista of integrated species before them. "Perhaps that is precisely why it did," Threll said thoughtfully. "You acted out of duty and compassion, not calculation or self-interest. The consortium was founded on similar principles, the recognition that diverse species achieve more together than apart, that cooperation transcends biological difference." Ambassador Threll. Adil's voice came through Mara's communicator. "Earth Command reports that the diplomatic vessel, Concord, has entered Ondor space and is requesting docking instructions." So soon, Mara was surprised. "They must have dispatched them immediately after Admiral Zhao's transmission. Perhaps your Earth Command recognized the significance of this contact as well," Threll suggested. "Shall we return to greet your diplomats?" The arrival of the Concorde marked the beginning of formal diplomatic relations between Earth and the Galactic Consortium. The human diplomats were clearly overwhelmed by the reality of advanced alien civilization, but adapted quickly, especially with Mara's team providing context from their previous interactions. Over the following days, Mara found herself in an unexpected role bridge between species translator of contexts and intentions. Her straightforward approach to first contact had established a foundation of trust that the professional diplomats built upon. On the final day before the Vigilant was scheduled to return to patrol duty, Mara stood with Threll on an observation deck of Unity's Dawn, watching the crystalline world of Ondor Verfins rotating slowly below them. "Your ship will be missed," Threll said, "particularly by Calero, who has developed quite an interest in human engineering approaches." Mara smiled. "Vasquez feels the same about Luminari crystal tech. I suspect there will be many exchange programs in our future." "Indeed." Threll's skin brightened with what Mara now recognized as pleasure. "The term Deathworlder is already being reconsidered in our lexicon. Perhaps resilient allies would be more appropriate." "I rather like Deathworlder now," Mara admitted. "It reminds us where we came from and how far we've come since our primitive competitive days." "Evolution is a fascinating process," Threll agreed, "both biological and cultural." A soft chime interrupted their conversation, an incoming transmission for Mara. "Excuse me, Ambassador." She activated her communicator to find Adil's image. "Captain, we're receiving an unusual signal from the long-range sensors. It appears to be another distress call, but the pattern is unlike anything we've encountered before, neither human nor Luminari." Mara and Threll exchanged a significant look. "Another call for help?" Mara asked. "Possibly, Captain. It's coming from beyond the Taurus Nebula." "Another species in need," Threll murmured. "The galaxy continues to reveal itself." Mara felt the familiar tension between duty and protocol, but now with a new context, humanity as part of something larger. A community of worlds bound by principles of mutual aid. The choice seemed clearer than ever. "Lieutenant, notify the Concorde of the signal. Then prepare the Vigilant for departure." She turned to Threll. "Ambassador, would your people be interested in a joint investigation?" Threll's skin brightened to its most luminous state yet. "Deathworlders and Luminari answering the call together. I can think of no finer beginning to our alliance, Captain Lin." As they moved to prepare their respective teams, the mysterious signal continued to pulse from the depths of space. Another voice in the dark, another opportunity for connection in a universe that suddenly seemed much less empty and much more full of possibility. The stars above Unity's dawn shimmered against the void, no longer distant and unreachable, but waypoints on a journey humanity was just beginning to undertake, not alone, but in the company of newfound allies who saw strength in their differences and unity in their shared values. And somewhere beyond the Taurus Nebula, another chapter of that journey waited to unfold.